So the Reserve Bank has decided to keep interest rates on hold and not drop the base rate lower than 3.85% this month. Who knew? Well, we did. We've been saying on this show for years now that the idea of interest rates coming down in any meaningful and consistent way anytime soon in Australia is just a nonsensical pipe dream, and it sure isn't ever going to happen while most of the country keeps voting for left-wing ideas and governments. And that's probably not going to stop anytime soon if you talk to most people under 40 these days, unfortunately. It's no secret that, like many of you who watch this show, I was gutted by the result of this year's election. Labor having gained a majority in the House of Representatives, picking up 17 seats to win with 94 seats, absolutely annihilating the Liberal National Party coalition by more than doubling their tally. The coalition only kept 43 seats. Not only do Albo and Jimbo and co have a big majority, but within the Labor Party itself now in the Parliament, we have more MPs from the party's dangerous left-wing faction than we've had since the disastrous Whitlam era half a century ago. And there'll be no checks and balances coming from the upper house, the Senate, either. Labor has 29 Senate seats now, and the Greens have 10. That gives the left a combined total of 39. Which is a clean majority in the 76-seat Senate chamber. And it gives the Greens a lot of power. Laws have to pass both houses of Parliament, remember. But far, far, far worse than the very left-wing state of our Labor Party in the House of Reps, or the combined frightening left-wing state of the Labor-Green majority in the Senate, far worse than all of that is the fact that we seem to have almost zero opposition. The most depressing thing for me and for many Aussies in the sensible centre and centre-right is the fact that the Liberal Party has made a clear decision, and the National Party is following along, that there will be no serious opposition or viable alternative centre-right views forcefully put. They're just going to be listening. And as a good friend of this show put it to me this week, listening is what politicians do when they don't actually know what to do. Now, look, listening is fine in leadership and management. It's the first stage of any decision-making process. If you want to be healthy, you listen to people. But you also need the second stage of leadership, and that's decision-making. And it requires some core values to measure those decisions against. And it's the core values that the modern Liberal Party of Susan Ley seems to be lacking. So what was Susan Ley spending her time focused on this week? Not the economy, the culture wars of the left. She was virtue signalling and doing identity politics stuff, all the stuff that the right side of politics should have nothing to do with.
I said when I became leader that we would listen carefully, stand by our values, fix our policies, and work very, very hard for the Australian people. Today's listening exercise to members of the Chinese communities is very much part of that. And what we were all able to emphasise is that it's just the beginning of an ongoing dialogue. I want to say, as I said in the room just now, how much we value our Chinese communities in this country.
There's nothing quite like the beginning of an ongoing dialogue to excite everybody, is there? Chinese immigration in Australia goes back about 7 generations to the gold rush era. We need to stop with this multicultural nonsense. It's actually racist. We're all Australians, and the more you divide us on our race, the more you play into the hands of white supremacy. You don't reduce racism, you increase it. By talking about Chinese Australians as a single group, you imply that they're different and must all think the same way. I'm a 3rd-generation Australian of Irish and Lebanese mixed descent. What am I going to be described as? Australian, I hope. Chinese Australians are not a blob to be won over by an opportunistic political party. They're as diverse as any Australians. Many detest communism, especially those from Taiwan or Hong Kong backgrounds, and some like Labor. Chinese family values and business values reflect the Liberal Party and conservative values quite naturally. The question the Liberal Party should be asking itself is, what are its values? What values does it represent? And stick to that. Sell that to the electorate, no matter what their background might be. Stuff the identity politics. So that was Susan Ley this week. What about her economics team? Were they doing anything? Ted O'Brien is Susan Lay's shadow treasurer. He's the man who'd be treasurer if she ever becomes Prime Minister. It's his job to challenge and hold Jim Chalmers' feet to the fire. This is how he did that after the rates announcement this week in an email to Liberal Party members. Today, millions of Australians will be disappointed that interest rates are not coming down. Australia has had just 2 interest rate reductions after 12 interest rate increases under Labor. By comparison, interest rates have fallen 3 times in the USA, 4 times in the UK, 6 times in New Zealand, 7 times in Canada, and 8 times in the Euro area. The average mortgage holder in Australia is paying around $1,900 more per month in additional interest payments than when Labor came to office. Okay, good info, good attack on the government there, Ted. But what are you going to do about it? As the Reserve Bank has recognised, public sector spending is leading to homegrown inflation. Labor's latest budget shows Australia in deficit for at least the next 10 years. Until Labor starts reinstalling budget responsibility, it will make the Reserve Bank's job harder. Well said, Ted. Could be a heck of a lot stronger than that, though, and a lot more colloquial so people can really understand it. Something like, the government's ripping you off and spending too much of your money. That might sound a bit better, and I'm eager to find out. Also, still, what are you going to do about it? The Liberals will listen and ensure we present a strong alternative. This starts with a strong economy so everyday Australians can get ahead. Regards, Ted O'Brien, Shadow Treasurer. Oh, okay. That's it. We'll listen and provide a strong alternative. Well, how about something like this? The country's in crisis, the economy is in serious trouble, and we need radical reform of government overspending and taxing, getting in the way of business people to grow their businesses, grow the pie, create jobs, and actually fix things. No such message from the supposed party of small business, the supposed party of medium-sized enterprises and job creation, the party of lower taxes, the party of smaller government and more liberty and freedom and wealth creation and sustainable social services like Medicare and the NDIS being run efficiently and well-funded by a healthy, growing, real value-creating economy. Where is that old Liberal Party? Where's it gone? All of this uni-party nonsense is playing right into Labor's hands. This week, they made Treasurer Jim Chalmers look holier than thou. Treasurer Jim Chalmers is striving for a new era of collaboration and compromise from politicians, unions and business leaders for generational fiscal reform, reported news.com via MSN. His comments come as Mr. Chalmers unveiled the first group of people taking part in the Economic Reform Roundtable in August, the story continues. The Treasurer invited Shadow Treasurer Ted O'Brien into the roundtable in a move to achieve cross-party consensus. Isn't that lovely? Might sound nice, folks, but the thing is that our democracy, our political system, our Westminster parliamentary system, it's built upon the idea of having a strong opposition. The opposition's job is not to be all nice and kumbaya and work in harmony with the government. That's how communist countries work. That's how government gets too big and too fat and too lazy and ultimately very, very corrupt. In our system, it's the job of His Majesty's opposition, as they call it in the UK, to deliberately challenge, to deliberately and proactively bring conflict to ensure that we get the checks and balances that we need. Because progress and growth and improvement and innovation and learning do not always come from kumbaya harmony. They often are born out of difficulty and challenges and conflict. And we want peaceful conflict in a chamber of parliament. That's what the Westminster system's all about. We don't want violent conflict on our streets, which is what you get when half the population gets no voice in a peaceful parliament. So no, Ted and Susan and Angus and co, we do not want to see you holding hands with the Labor Party and the Greens in a festival of love. But it's not looking good. They've chosen the most left-wing leader they could possibly choose in Susan Ley. She's set a clear direction for a modern approach, a clear slap in the face or direct punch in the nose, really, to all of the Conservatives inside and outside her party, that this modern Liberal Party is not your party. And given there doesn't seem to be an alternative centre-right party that has a broad front bench of talent and deep tentacles in the community and wide national appeal, sadly, the centre-right and right in this country is now in a very bad place indeed. The only thing that's going to save us now is economic pain and shock. And I'm afraid it's coming. It has to. Economic truths are like gravity. They're just facts. Doesn't matter what your 20-something woke son or little sister wishes was the way that the world worked. The reality is that without innovation, discipline, a strong work ethic, stoicism, determination, humility, a willingness to shut up, listen and learn and then make decisions and take bold action, support for risk-taking, low taxes, minimal government interference and massive support for business, our productivity will continue to plummet, no matter how many talk fests that Jim Chalmers and Elbow wants to host. And productivity, folks, productivity is everything. Without productivity, we can't have nice things. Because without people supported to create wealth, there can be no wealth creation. And without wealth creation, there can be no wage rises for workers and no tax revenue for the government. And without that, the economy is stuffed and all our social services will go down the drain. If wage rises happen without productivity increases, inflation must result. You can't pay people more without the cost of making stuff going up, unless you get increased productivity. And if the cost of making stuff goes up, prices go up. And the wage rises become meaningless because you've got to pay more for the stuff. This is not a political argument, remember, right? It's just like physics. It's just scientific, fact-based reality. And if inflation keeps going up, interest rates are never coming down. Because the main measure used to decide whether interest rates come down by the Reserve Bank of Australia is inflation. The Reserve Bank is tasked with ensuring that it doesn't do anything that might contribute to inflation going outside the 2 to 3% band that it tries to keep it within. So if inflation's above 3%, rates won't come down. The problem is, as we've said on this show many times, our inflation data, the headline CPI number, the Consumer Price Index, it's counted on a basket of goods used to measure inflation. But critics say that the basket has got things in it that it shouldn't have, and it doesn't have things in it that it should have. That politicians and bureaucrats aren't giving us the real picture on inflation. The CPI is officially at 2.1%. But do you really think when you're putting petrol in your car at $2.30 a litre and buying a coffee for $7 and tomatoes for $13 a kilo and paying the rent or your mortgage, that inflation is actually 2.1%? The big surprise for me about the Reserve Bank Governor's news conference this week wasn't the decision to hold rates at 3.85%. It was her comments about the CPI being perhaps not so reliable as an indicator of real inflation. Listen carefully to this. She's answering a question here about why some of the RBA board members voted for a rate cut while the majority voted against it. But have a listen to what she says about the CPI data.
Reasonable people can differ in their interpretations of data. And I think there was a couple of things. One was the labour market data and another was the monthly CPI data. And a lot of people focused on the headline CPI number at 2.1%, but we don't think inflation in a sustainable way is that low. We think it's higher. So our interpretation of the data, I think, was a bit different. And opportunities like this, for me, to communicate that, I think is very helpful.
Whoa. I really respect Michelle Bullock now. She knows how to speak the truth and isn't afraid to. She has just said there, very cautiously and diplomatically, as she's got to, given her job, that the CPI is not an accurate indicator of inflation. So that is what our journalists should be focused on now, hammering the bureaucrats and politicians about what they're going to do to fix the very manipulated way in which we measure inflation in this country. The basket of goods is a basket case. If you like The Other Side, one of the best ways you can support us is by signing up for the products of our sponsors. And one of our best sponsors is PIA VPN, the virtual private network that stops people spying on your internet activity. It'll keep you and your family truly safe from the prying eyes of big governments and corporations without slowing down your internet speeds. And you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. You can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and you'll get the discount. And you'll get more info on those special deals if you check it out. That's piavpn.com/otherside. That was a segment clip from our weekly Friday night news show, The Other Side, which you can watch in full by simply going to YouTube and searching up The Other Side Australia. Then you'll find our full shows playlist. You can also find all of our full shows and our segments on our own website, othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Help us build a whole new Aussie media by joining us over there and signing up for the exclusive side.